Welcome to the Bald Move TV podcast, the officially unofficial podcast for all the TV. I'm Jim.
And I'm A.Ron.
And I don't know what to say, like, this is like the week of, or like to place this episode.
I don't know.
Do we need to do that?
I
don't
doubt
even need to do that.
This show, they talk about the long tail. This show has no tail.
This is the episode where Falling Skies has just come back. Season 4.
This show has a vestigial tail. Yes, and we're going to talk the last two episodes of Holy Shit, I Sneeze, the last two episodes of Halt and Catch Fire.
Okay.
I'm going to be previewing the leftovers.
Okay.
In my case, tuna fish and lasagna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like a little Chipotle burrito action.
And I think that's about it.
The Chipotle burrito way better than the Qdoba burrito, by the way. Not a controversial opinion, I don't think.
I wonder if it will be controversial to anyone.
Probably not.
No.
Maybe those who have not tried the Chipotle burrito
Sure.
or have not had a Qdoba burrito in a very long time.
Sure.
Because I went back and, oof.
I think Qdoba's just backslid. They're chasing profits. They're in the Subway stage where they're just weighing shit and paying too much in chasing pennies.
When there are dollars to be made.
When there's dollars to be made, just making really good burritos.
I agree. My local Chipotle had a sign that said it was out of order because they didn't have humanely grown farm fresh chickens. They were back to like the farm factory chickens.
Yeah? What do you mean it's out of order?
Right? That's what it said on the thing.
I mean, they weren't selling chicken?
No, they had chicken. It was just not the local, fresh, organic stuff that you're...
Cruelty.
Sweet taste.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a condiment, right?
I think so. It gives it that unami flavor that the Japanese are always talking about.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, how about we talk about some TV?
Okay.
All right, what show do you want to talk about first? You watched Halt and Catch Fire with me today.
Yes.
We watched the last two episodes, episode 3 and 4.
This show is so close to being good.
Right?
And at some point, like, I was grudgingly admiring the 4th episode.
Mm-hmm.
And like, wow, it's a damn shame only 200,000 people are watching. Only slightly less people are watching this show than listen to our most popular podcast. It's a shame, but I feel like they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
Like, having that whole backup fiasco be something that's completely engineered by the Joe character.
Uh-huh.
Do I need more reasons to hate this guy?
That's the thing with this show. They keep telling us Joe is a genius visionary.
Yes.
And also, Joe is this loose cannon asshole who we don't want to root for.
Like, we were laughing. Like, if you and I were in business with a third partner, and we've hit some tough times, and this guy comes roaring up into the parking lot of our business, and he says,
busts open his shirt.
What we need to do is put a handle on the podcast and rip open a shirt. Look at the scars on my body from my fucked up history.
Now let's get to work.
We'd be like, okay, we'd openly plot against him. Well, actually, we'd hiddenly plot against him. That's the whole point of getting together and excluding some person.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So many times, these characters, Cameron, she has this nice moment where she bonds with the children. And she finds out
gets some tough love from Gordon's wife.
Well, that's all deserved. And Gordon's wife had her pegged right on. Yep. But then later on, and the kid said, oh, yeah, mom and dad joke about you being white trash.
Uh-huh.
Instead of, I don't know, having a learning moment or maybe being the better person, she decides to take spray paint over, and the only reason the people's house is spared is they met up with an even crazier neighbor and to form the shotgun-toting, bathrobe-wearing, I don't know what his name is.
Matthew McConaughey. Poor man's, homeless man's Matthew McConaughey. Again, these characters are despicable. They're despicable. A lot of them, yeah.
If you find out that someone said something mean behind your back, and your response is to terrify children and then go and run and vandalize a person's home, commit petty larceny and vandalize, you're a terrible person.
So part of me wants to say, yeah, you're right, and I don't enjoy watching that, but there's going to be a redemption of these characters. And
I don't know that. And I don't know that I want to see that.
It's television, right? That's what happens with characters. They get redeemed. They start at the low point, and they get to the high point. And I think you may not like watching the low point, and maybe they're
maybe they're not moving fast enough for your taste, but I think
Jim,
you got to start somewhere.
I don't know that I want to see a redemptive arc for these people at this point. I kind of
Of course
want to
not,
see
because
them
they're
fail.
horrible people.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Is Joe bisexual?
Good
Or
question.
did he fuck that dude in a purely cynical power move to screw out whatever the hell that girl's name is, the rich heiress or whatever.
Yeah. The one who offered 80%
out of the business,
for $10 million.
out of the business deal.
I want to say he is more of an opportunist than he is bisexual, and that he was doing that completely to wreck the deal.
Certainly. I just wonder, has he ever fucked a dude before?
I don't know.
We don't know. I'm just speculating, and I don't know, because the show is inviting me to speculate on just how far the bottom goes in this guy. Is he the type of guy? And I don't know. Maybe that says something about me, that I think pretending to be gay to fuck over a business deal is worse than just having that proclivity and using it. Like, in one point, you're a predator, and another point, and another point, you're like a prostitute. At worst, you're a prostitute. The other point, you're a predator.
You're also being dishonest, and that's
not just dishonest.
That's another layer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dishonest and using that person much more than if you were into it. You know?
Yeah, maybe that's the thing that bothers me.
Yeah, so I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know what they're going to do with that, and I don't know that his character necessarily needs to explain his sexuality. I mean, we know that he's kissed this guy, he's slept with Cameron, so something there is he's just playing all the bases here. Doesn't give a shit.
Well, Cameron, it kind of is built like a dude. Got a boy haircut.
Okay.
Maybe there's a commonality here.
Maybe some subconscious stuff.
The thing is, this show has got the trappings of quality.
Absolutely.
Credit sequence,
amazing. Yeah.
Soundtrack, really good.
Yeah, those little synth kind of. I don't even know what to call it, but it's like a synth,
like
drum
Daft Punk's
pattern.
Tron soundtrack.
Feels very much like Tron,
with a little bit of late 70s punk and early 80s stuff thrown in.
Love it.
I think it's great. The camera work and the look and the periodness of it, everything is just right on. And some of the actors give really incredible performances of characters I find despicable. and Joe is just turned into a goddamn cartoon as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they want him in some ways to be omniscient, but then they want it to backfire on him occasionally.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually seem to. Joe is a character who is willing to pursue his vision at all costs, at all human cost, right? He will leave a swath of destruction behind him, laying waste to these characters' lives, and he doesn't give a shit as long as the plan works out. And that's exactly what we saw in episode 4, where he got the reporter to come in and manufactured a story and got him interested in Cardiff Electric.
But
look what it did to Cameron. That's the thing.
Not just that, but
Cameron.
it also put this extraordinary pressure on the relationship between Gordon and his wife, whose names escaped me. And it also made, they had this really nice moment where you find out why that he's kind of in love with her and why he has so much respect for her, but also kind of why he's a shitty parent. I love the fact that she's slaving away over the data retrieval project and being kind of brilliant and badass while she's doing it. And there's this thing where the kids have to be taken care of. It never occurs to him that, hey, I'm essentially sitting here with my thumb up my ass, waiting for my wife to save the day. I can do something with the children. Instead, they pawn her off on this lunatic Cameron, who they both despise.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence that she can care for a child.
She seems completely unequipped to do so.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe that's not realistic. A tech dude in the early '80s wouldn't occur to parent. But
maybe
I just don't know.
The other interesting thing that they're actually setting up there is the conflict between
Yes.
Gordon's job and his wife's job. And I think that is going to blow up in either the next episode or the next couple of episodes. Because, at the very end of episode 4, she goes to her boss and he says, look, you're on probation. You've been doing shitty work lately. That needs to pick up.
Especially since she realized, with the full realization that the sacrifices she made was a bullshit PR move.
Yes.
And
how manipulative Gordon's boss is, and he doesn't actually see that.
And what does that say about how stable this whole thing is?
Yes.
No, I agree. I think that's going to be a big plot point moving forward.
And also the fact that...
I just find it... By the end of the episode, I was kind of back to my de facto, do I really care? I almost got sucked into caring, and now I'm back to like,
Yeah, I feel like they tiptoe toward greatness and then kind of take a big step back every once in a while.
That was just a pure... Because I think is your mind supposed to be blown at how clever this thing was because it did get the journalist's attention, but for some reason... that when the male anti-hero pulls off some big thing that works and you realize it works in like Breaking Bad. Yeah. But in here, it just made Joe seem delusional and crazy and destructive.
That's the big sticking point with me is how destructive it was to everyone around him. Like, I can't get behind a guy who's going through life ruining other people's lives, even if he is doing visionary things that pay off.
On a Hail Mary, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and the biggest Hail Mary of all was episode 1, where, he clones this IBM thing and then says, we're doing this, whether you like it or not.
And then
that
when you find
destroys many lives.
When you find out how, and we saw that today, they had to lay off, 80% of their staff?
Yeah, 40-something people.
But when you saw that he didn't really have a plan either. Yeah. It was just like, well, I'll do this, and then question mark, question mark, question mark, profit.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know, that's pretty terrifying to me.
Sure.
And I just find it hard to... the other thing is I'm a pretty technical dude, but they are not really establishing for me why Cameron is this godlike character or why she's so good or why we should care. Because every time they devolve into technical explanation for brilliance, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I was trying to figure out what she was writing in lipstick on the bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell, it was just gibberish. And it's just like, well, she's having some breakthrough, and then she sees her tattoo. But I feel like that never pays off. Again, I am in the demo that could probably get I never wrote bare metal programming, but I could probably at least get it. I have a much better chance than anybody else out there. And I'm not making the connections, man.
Yeah, on some level, you don't want to do too much of that because that will alienate everyone who isn't you, everyone who can't understand it. Like, I don't want to watch 5 minutes of description of what fat means, the acronym that is fat, and then what the acronym stands for.
Yeah, no, I don't.
They didn't need to go into all that.
I'm not talking about that, but it felt like we had a much better layman's understanding of what Bonnie, I think it's her name, Bonnie? Gordon's wife.
Gordon's wife?
What Gordon's wife was doing and why it was working.
Yeah.
Than we do when, it's like Cameron, she's listlessly going through the office and fucking around. We know she's not being productive and she's stuck.
She's looking
when
for inspiration.
She then looks at her tattoo and sees, oh my God, it's a square. And now she's like, hunting and pecking. That's the other thing. This character that hunts and pecks on the keyboard, I've yet to meet anyone that's proficient with technology or what I would say skillful that hunts and pecks.
Sure, I could buy that.
New dude that's been programmed for 35 years, hunted and pecked, but he also was subpar programmer.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's hunting and pecking, and she's like, in the zone kind of thing, and it's like, okay, that's her being good productive, but I don't know.
But what's she doing?
Yeah, why did the tattoo, like when Don has an advertising flash of brilliance, you can then see...
In Mad Men,
you can then see, okay, this is how it's going to pay off in the ultimate pitch. I feel like we don't know, and I feel like, yes, you're right, it'd be very tricky to make the technical details interesting, but by just hand-waving them away, these are just there's been 3 sequences with Cameron like that, and they're just interchangeable. I'm like, well, she had a problem, and now she doesn't. Fuck if I know what it was.
She had some sort of revelation.
I mean...
But we're not clued into what it was.
Yeah, dude folds up a pancake or burrito or whatever, and it's like, we can sandwich motherboards. That's something.
That makes sense.
Yes,
sure.
That's something.
Yeah.
But her just staring at a tattoo, and like, you get, a couple scenes later, she's programming and poking away. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
So, about Cameron's character, delving a little more deeply than just the surface stuff... She seems to get back in her zone. She's this entire episode, or couple of episodes, she's looking for inspiration. She's stuck. She can't get this code to work. And then she, like you said, goes and gets this tattoo thing and figures it out. It seems like her partying and drinking and just letting loose with these people inspired her somehow. Whereas being in the office, living in the office, couldn't. Is that something that Cameron needs? Does she need that excitement or that external stimulus?
I don't know, because the weird thing is, I felt like that the way they directed and shot and the way she performed it was like she was waking up to the realization that she's partying with a bunch of losers.
These people are not going to amount to anything.
At nothing. Like, at some point, it's fine to believe a bunch of hippie nonsense. Mm-hmm. But if you stay in that hippie nonsense mode, you will never be able to affect the change that you want. You'll just forever be bitching on the outside of society about what a bunch of bullshit it is.
Okay.
And maybe that's fine for some people.
Sure. Some people don't want to change the
Cameron's
world.
got a paycheck. She's able to pay for food and lodging and clothes on her back, and that's superior to perpetually bumming your way through life, I guess.
Okay, and you think that's what she's realizing in those moments?
Yeah, I mean,
but
I don't know.
It's also
like, I feel like there is, if we want to get philosophical,
okay,
and why not?
Sure.
There is a nobility to being like a Cody Lundin, and you're like, you know what? The modern world's bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm going to go live out in the desert, and I'm going to build a mud hut, and I'm going to figure what all this is about, and I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is the same nobility to being a sullen late teenager, early 20-something, and bumming off your parents or grandparents, and going to arcades and going to concerts, and it's like if you want to espouse these like bullshit ideals about modern life and all that, fine. Mm. But at some point, if you don't disconnect and go do the on Walden Pond deal, you're just a parasite.
Sure, and
which is
they
another.
State that in the episode. He's like, I'm never going to get a job. I'm like, well, then you're going to be in that alley for the rest of your life. I hope that's what you like, and you're probably going to end up like stealing from people and hurting people just to get by.
Yeah,
and that's if that's what you want to do, I won't say more power to you, but
no.
I guess you can live a life that way.
Yeah, but you will eventually, your friend circle will be a bunch of parasite predators like yourself, and that's just a miserable experience.
And then you'll turn on each other.
So anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, she had this breakthrough in the midst of this personal revelation. Yeah. So it's like, were they saying that she needed to party? Because it seems like she was trying to get into that old frame of mind, but she just couldn't. Like, I'm going to start trying to have my own
pound this vodka.
I'm gonna pound this vodka. I'm gonna have my own personal mosh pit of one, and I couldn't get it started.
Sure.
So
there's also something to be said for looking for inspiration in unlikely places. I know, like, there's one of the things that Steve Jobs is famous for having said is that he took a lot of inspiration from like calligraphy and stuff like that when he was making the first Mac operating system or helping design it. So
he's so full of shit. What inspired the original Mac that was on everybody's junior high's journalism class corners with calligraphy? I would love to know the answer to that.
The font system, from what I've read, and
I
wasn't there, I can't say for sure, is inspired by the different types of writing you can do, the calligraphy, printing. Just all of that stuff, the stuff that he learned in school and the weird classes that he took, he tried to take those lessons and put them into his computing.
I don't know. Maybe that seems like the kind of...
That could be retconning it a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
So.
See, it's like, I feel like that's part of Joe, is that maybe he didn't really tear apart a stereo store. Uh-huh. Maybe once he's successful, that's something that he will make up about his backstory that will seem introspective.
Man, how do you portray that on a screen?
I think maybe they're trying to do
all
*Halt
the
and
things
Catch
you've
Fire*.
Been seeing, were just stories that he was telling about the journey from.
I'm just saying, I know people's tendency to kind of make shit up and exaggerate on job resumes and everything, and I know the kind of megalomania it takes to get to be something in jobs, and I know how many people he's fucked over and stolen credit for that are like his friends, so I tend to just discount everything he says about his process. Like, maybe you read that in a book, or maybe you saw someone else do it, but I don't know. I'm a cynical ass when it comes to Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all those guys.
Well, he gets his ass beat for it at some point.
So why did he get his ass beat?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew who perpetrated it. It feels like
I
his
feel like
boss at Cardiff did.
See, I feel like it was the OG, the old girl whose boy toys he fucked.
Okay,
I
maybe.
feel like she called the code red on him.
She looked unhappy when they came out of the booze room.
Yeah, but on the other hand, why did they? And also, they talked about that in the next episode.
Yeah, the deal was off.
The deal was off, and it's like, what did he do? And that was a big central question at the beginning. And it was bookended with him getting his ass beat and picked up by his boss. But his boss seemed awful chummy with the cops too.
Yeah.
But at that point, why would his boss call the code red? Just to tell,
put him
just
back
like,
in
I know
line?
you did something.
Yeah.
And you're not the only you're not the only one that can fuck around and color outside the lines, maybe.
I wonder if it has to do with the conversation you had with the reporter, but I don't remember that conversation well enough to speculate.
What about it?
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember it well enough to speculate, but that was the only scene I can think of where he might have caught wind of his scheme, because no one ever told him that Joe had set this whole thing up.
Okay. Well, I will say that I was just about to check out of the show. Like,
Okay.
I wasn't even going to watch it in my capacity of occasionally doing a Bald Move TV. And the 4th episode roped me back in, because other than the sour note it left at the end where it was just Joe fucking with people again, I felt like that was a pretty solid episode.
I agree.
And it gave a lot of people a lot of things to do. I also think that Cameron, I can't get a peg on her. And most of the main people we're supposed to care about, I kind of want to root against them, because they just feel like they're terrible human beings.
I like Gordon a lot. I feel like, that kind of downtrodden.
Why do you like
computer
Gordon?
programmer guy? I feel like him in some ways. He's trying to do excellent things. Life just kind of keeps getting in his way.
I did like that he figured out that his neighbor was a boat anchor.
Yes, God, it was cheering.
Because I'm like, man, if this goes on for many more, it's a single episode arc. This guy ingratiates to himself. He's playing it safe. He's giving him bad advice. I thought the reveal was he was secretly going to be telling everything that he comes up with brilliant and pitching it to Joe as that. And like this, Gordon's always trying to naysay and this. And, I thought he was going to fuck him over that way. But I like the fact that he just realized that this person is someone that can't get things done.
Yeah.
When life gives him problems, he wants to sit on his hands and blame everybody else.
Yeah.
And all the obvious problems, and it's never his fault, never his responsibility, and that's not the guy.
Has no imagination either, right? Like in this team, like you said, he's the one playing it safe.
Yes.
And saying, oh, well, the manufacturing process won't work. Well, how do you know? Let's try. Let's talk to Intel. Let's talk to AMD. Let's see if they're willing to do it.
Yeah, but
But you're cutting it off at the knees before we even try.
That's one of the hard parts about being pioneers that we have a little bit of experience with is like there is no infrastructure.
No.
Like for a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do, and we're trying to figure it out as we go. There, you can't just like pick up the phone and call the guy who does XYZ because that guy doesn't exist.
Sure.
It's a Wild West. That's the way this stuff is going to be, and you can't be a person who says, well, you can't. There's no wise old man you can talk to. There's no established process.
Yeah.
You're creating one.
Sure. And sometimes you have to, break a few eggs.
Yeah.
So
gotta fire a few guys.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm super happy that.
where's the
I'm with
crazy
his
neighbor
character.
plot line going to go?
I don't know, because that guy is crazy with a capital C.
He,
Willing to kill Gordon, apparently.
or at least scared the shit out of him
One of the two.
with his children there.
Yep.
My God. That's repellent.
I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm still hooked. I'm still in.
Although, can you imagine how hard it would be to get a job in microprocessing when you live in a town where like 80 other microprocessor dudes just got fired?
Yeah, no kidding.
Jesus. Okay, so there's two ways we could go here. Choose your own adventure, Jim. Do you want to talk to me about your experiences with Falling Skies, or would you like for me to tell you why I'm excited about The Leftovers?
Let's save the this might be awesome but could also suck section for the end.
Okay.
I feel like that's the proper place for it.
All right.
Current stuff up front. So let's talk about Falling Skies. I know
Do
you
it.
have not seen any of Falling Skies.
I saw the first 3 episodes when it very first premiered.
Okay, it's been a while.
And then it's kind of like I gave it. I'm a science fiction horror.
Okay.
I will give anything 3 episodes. I gave Voyager a whole season. I gave Enterprise 3 episodes. You've got 3 episodes to win me over, and then if you suck, I'm out.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience with Falling Skies. Is season 4? Season 4 premiere.
Yeah, season 4 premiered.
I'm thinking
this week.
the way I see this show, and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Every premiere, they go balls out and like, fucking wow, this show is going to be amazing this year. And they probably spend 80% of their budget on the premiere and the finale. And then everything in the middle is kind of like,
Kinda, yeah. The effects are pretty good. I mean, this show's on TNT, right? It's not one of your networks that usually stands out.
But I mean, television
quality
effects,
production.
Television effects are getting really good. Like, look at Game of Thrones. It's Lord of the Rings quality.
Sure. You can't even see the effects when they're there. Mm-hmm. You definitely notice that these are effects, but like the aliens look good, the ships look good, the energy shit they do looks good. It all is, above the par line. So we're good on effects. I enjoy it for that. Although I should say it doesn't take me out of it, right? Because good effects don't do a ton for a show. Bad effects will totally ruin it. So it doesn't pull me out.
Yeah, it's true.
The other thing I like about this show is that it has been building a steady narrative on kind of a nation building on a universal scale. Like there's an alien race that comes down and takes over the planet. And that's the active battle is between the humanoids, or the humans, a faction of aliens and who are like on their side, and then a bigger faction who have come to take over the planet. And it doesn't seem like the aliens themselves can do it because there's been this constant kind of subjugation of humanity where they come in, they fight against the people who are actively fighting them, but the other people are being propagandized and kind of quelled into this parasitic existence. Like they come in, they subjugate us, they make us do their work.
It's Half-Life 2.
That sort of thing. It's essentially Half-Life 2, yeah. But it's told really well. The way that they've unfolded it is fairly entertaining and engaging.
I think that's super interesting whenever you get a plot in like a very morbid way where some species treats humanity as livestock.
Yeah.
And you think about what's the best way to process, because we have a lot of livestock processes, hello chickens.
Sure.
And, we treat them various ways from, humane to inhumane, and we just don't really give a fuck because they're not sentient.
Yeah.
At least the majority of them. I mean, there's people that eat dolphins and monkeys and stuff like that, so who knows?
Sure.
Pigs are pretty smart, I've heard. But they're not like written language, oral history, tool using, cock an AK-47 and shoot you with these smart. If you were an advanced civilization that wanted to take over Earth, how would you treat humans if you wanted to? What kind of pastures, what kind of enclosures, what kind of control systems would you use to most effectively subjugate a species like us?
Yeah.
And to the extent that like, I thought Half-Life 2 and that whole universe shows like this alien race that's like, we need these humans for like slave labor and, the kind of be the farmers and ranchers, why we're exploiting this and eventually making the human race go extinct. But they have this really interesting way that they do control and propaganda and everything.
Yeah.
How does the stuff on what's the show called again?
Falling Skies.
How does stuff on Falling Skies stack up to that?
Pretty well, surprisingly. I think that's one of the things that they do best in this show. They're kind of
why are the aliens here? Are they taking over the planet?
Yeah, they're taking over the planet.
Are they eating us? Do they use us as food?
No, it's a resources thing.
Okay.
They're moving on to the next planet. They do this at planet after planet.
So like the Locust style. They use up a planet and move on. Okay.
Yeah.
Right
so it's kind of a two-pronged attack on humanity here. They've kind of separated us into the kids who, like, the people who don't know any better and the people who are actively going to fight against them.
The blue pills and the red pills.
Yeah, essentially. So with the kids, they have propaganda camps where they are feeding them propaganda videos spoken by other humans, other kids, and they're just being brainwashed, which, feels very true to life. Stuff like that happens all the time. It's a very 1984 scenario.
What's the standard of living like? Is it like...
For who?
For the humans.
There isn't one standard of living because some of them are in the camps, which are peaceful and nice and happy, and that's what the aliens want them to be.
Okay.
And then there are the humans who are actively fighting, and they are living in ditches and squalor, and they're a ragtag team.
But you say camps? Resistance. Are you talking like a refugee camp, or
I don't
more
mean
like
labor camps. So, it seems like they've been taken to like these kind of suburbs, I guess. Where they might have some buildings, but it's mostly like an outdoor scenario, like a Southern California sort of thing.
Okay.
And the kids are being brainwashed there. They've got like these whistleblowers, like literally whistleblowers. So whenever somebody steps out of line at these propaganda camps and the kids hear something they shouldn't, they get their whistles out and they blow and they get right around the person.
Oh,
and
that's
then
interesting.
someone can come in and deal with them.
Huh.
But there's also...
That is very 1984.
Yeah. There's also labor camps for children who are harnessed with these alien devices, possibly alien life forms, and they're taken to the mines to work.
The children are?
Yes, yeah. The harnesses give them special abilities, like greater strength.
Did they not do that with adults?
They don't, no.
Huh.
It's only children. And in this latest episode, they found a truckload of children without harnesses who were being moved somewhere. I feel like maybe those mines are for the kids who kind of rebel and will not sit still in the propaganda camps and be quelled.
The ADHD or...
Yeah, pretty much. I just feel like they're doing that stuff really well. And then the way they deal with adults is either they kill them through force, or there's also... this alien baby who was born to a human, and she ages very, very quickly. She was a baby at the end of last season. 4 months later, she's a teenager of some kind.
Because babies aren't interesting, so they have to age very rapidly, or else who gives a shit?
Yeah, so they did that, and at some point, a kind of cult sprung up around her, where a lot of the, I want to say, more gullible humans saw a bolt of lightning come out of the sky and kill one of the alien mechs. And Lexi is her name. She claimed responsibility for that. And so now there's a cult around her, and there's kind of a little camp that worships her and listens to her. And I feel like maybe she's part of the propaganda targeted at adults. I don't know. That's kind of all very up in the air. We just found out about that. So
all right. So
who knows where that's going?
So how did you enjoy the premiere then?
I mostly liked it. It's still...
How did you leave the show? Were you fed up with it by last season? Were you hopeful about this season?
I was hopeful about this season. They had a big badass weapon that they used. They kind of struck a blow against the aliens, and humans had been promised to go back to whatever city they were in. And it turned out not to be what they were hoping for.
Oh. Are there good aliens? Are they all bad?
There are good aliens.
Okay, cool.
Is it
a different race, or is it just a different faction?
I think it's a different race. Totally.
Okay.
They certainly look much different.
Okay.
But this first episode was kind of uneven. I mean, the acting, they always go kind of overboard on it, and it's melodramatic, and it's, too much soundtrack when swelling music when they don't need it, just to make a scene interesting. So they did a lot of that, the standard stuff, and at the beginning, there was this kind of balls-to-the-wall scene where they were trying to get to what was supposed to be a safe city, and it turned out to be a trap, and they got separated and shielded in by these energy fences. And then they did a 4-month time jump. Right. It seemed like that balls-to-the-wall scene should have been part of last season's finale, and then do the time jump between seasons. But they didn't do that, and that felt really weird. It feels like they don't know where they're writing to, honestly.
Well,
that's the impression I got.
Yeah.
Even like finale to premiere, they don't know where they're writing to.
I bet that's true, because they probably never know if they're going to be renewed. and
Could
they're
be,
just trying to build. Anytime you're trying to tell the most exciting story that you're trying to tell, sometimes you go down dead end paths and like, oh boy, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what our budget's going to be, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah, maybe they didn't know that the city was going to be trapped, booby trapped at the end of last season. Who knows? But I really like it because the humans have kind of become less and less powerful with each season. Like their numbers are dwindling. They're being more and more subjugated. And there's still a resistance fighting, but it's getting smaller. And so when you're watching the show and you are part of the underdog capacity here, you're really rooting for the humans, right? Like,
sure,
obviously.
You have to be.
Yeah, because you're part of that group. So, of course, you're going to root for them. And I think, that's the conquering of this planet is probably one of the most underdog situations you can imagine. So I really enjoy that part of it.
Okay.
And then it looks like they're going to have a balls to the wall season because Noah Wiley, who's the main character in this, is kind of saying the gloves are coming off at the end of this episode. And he's hatching plans. And that's what he's known for. He was a history teacher before this all started. He's kind of got a very strategic mind. So I can't wait to see what unfolds there.
Is this their final season?
I don't think so.
How balls out can it really get?
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't know. It can lead to you can pull out one ball, which will lead to a 2-ball season 5.
Yeah.
And then it ends, maybe.
I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
Let one of them dribble out of the pant leg.
Yeah.
Loosen up the boxers on that side. Okay. Anything else to talk about on that?
No, I think that's about it. People who don't watch are probably bored by now.
All right. Well, let's talk about The Leftovers. It premieres this Sunday on HBO at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I am pretty excited. It's got the Lost Guys pedigree, Damien Lindelof.
Yeah.
Which is, a good thing and also a bad thing. But Alan Sepinwall had this really interesting take where, and the critics have seen, I think, the first 5 episodes of, I think, a 10-episode season, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But he said that, like, Lindelof has spent 3 years on Twitter taking shit for the finale of Lost and trying to engage with fans.
Sure.
And he last year, probably when he became attached to this project, he said, you know what? I'm off Twitter. I made a similar. For New Year's, I gave up Twitter because Twitter's like crack for me, man. I just couldn't get off of it, and it's like it's the best way to get news,
sure,
and to stay connected and find out. But I found myself like waking up at 3 a.m, checking Twitter and not getting back to sleep for like an hour.
Wow,
and it's like that's just no way to live. So he got off of Twitter. So did I. It's been a mixed bag for me, but it's led to this creative thing called the Leftovers. And Sepinwall said that he's learned a lot of these lessons. That here, this show doesn't seem to be really interested in unraveling the mystery. Like the hook on the majority of this show is, why did this happen? We need to find out how this happened. This show is almost like, if this happened, and it remained a mystery, what would humanity's reaction be? And how do people move on? And they've got these really interesting some hooks that they've talked about. Like there's this cult that they dress all in white, they take a vow of silence, and they smoke at least 2 packs of cigarettes a day as like a sacrament, because their whole thing is, we're already dead. If 10% or 5% of the human population, 300 or 400 million people, can just up and disappear, are we even alive? Is this still living? So they're like chasing death as a response to this, and they recruit these people to do the same. And they're also very antagonistic towards the people that are wanting to do, keep remembering people and make the big statues and do all that. And there's a lot of that examination. Like United States, can you even imagine? Yeah. Like if just a random 4 or 5% of our people's winked out of existence, the kind of memorials we'd have, and the navel gazing and the CNN and all that stuff. Sure. And I just think that that's really interesting, that the religious institutions, how they're grappling. He talks about how the major world religions are grappling with this problem. I could totally get down on a series that doesn't give a shit about why this happens, but just examines the social implications.
That's interesting, yeah. That's way more interesting than the idea of trying to unravel that mystery.
Because the other thing is, I don't trust I don't trust these guys to give me satisfying answers for anything. I do trust these people to give things emotional weight and resonance. And the other thing that Sepinwall said is that these are just incredibly tough experiences to watch. They're emotionally harrowing. Mm-hmm. And he made this analogy that it's like, it's not so much that they're trying to drown you in this overwhelming feeling of loss and grief, but it's almost like they're holding you under until you learn a new way to breathe. And he said that this is going to be very polarizing, and he could see half the audience is like, nope, this is too real. It's too visceral.
I'm not
because
sure
I guess
what he means by holding
either.
you under until you learn a new way to breathe.
I don't either. But like from just a trailer, where you see the mother who's got a screaming newborn, and then suddenly the screaming stops, and she looks back there, and the kid's gone, and that feeling of panic and dread, and like this can't be real. Scenes like that, I found, got my pulse racing just watching that. I guess there's some really shocking scenes of violence too. And I don't know if they're connected to the disappearance and the aftermath of that, or if they're actually connected to people that don't have anything left to live. So, I just think that I'm super primed because another reviewer that I like and respect, Andrew Greenwald, is also raving about the same thing, that he's never seen anything like it. It's a very tough series to watch. It's very emotionally draining, and I kind of get off on that stuff. I worry about your reaction.
I'm less into the oh my god, I want to kill myself after having watched this
because that
show
was your big
angle.
barrier
True
to True Detective, where I was like, you want to talk about nihilism and despair and how life is bullshit? I will stay up all night long talking to you about that stuff. I think it's interesting. I talked about this on the True Detective podcast. Like, I have a pretty bleak outlook on life, but I try my best to not act on that. Like, I try to live my life as if every day does mean, is worth a damn and actually means something. But deep down, I don't really believe that. It's like I've got this like cynical, this sunny-sided cynist thing down to a science. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Because the other thing is I don't get emotionally moved very often. So I kind of like it when I can get an entertainment that does peg my emotion meter. So
yeah, I'm glad you described this in a little more detail because now I'm more interested. If it was going to be mystery after mystery and just like this layered kind of thing like Lost was, less interested in that now.
Yeah. After
having seen Lost. More interested in the idea that this is just a mystery and it's out there, and now how do we deal with it? I'm not totally sure I can handle the really depressing nature of what it sounds like it's going to be.
Do you remember the Jack Tattoo episode of Lost?
Jack Tattoo.
I guess there's an origin story about how he got his tattoos or why he got his tattoos.
Vaguely.
And Sepinwall said that was a very emotionally draining and tough episode to watch, and he said this leaves it all in the dust. I don't know because I bailed on Lost halfway through season 2 because I saw this is going to be another bullshit X-Files deal. I'm out. Yeah, I can always watch the DVDs later if it turns out this is amazingly well plotted out. These polar bears and nanobot monsters mean anything. It turned out, I don't feel like I missed out on much.
Yeah, I want to talk more about Lost, but I'm going to save it for a QA podcast because I know there was a listener who wrote in and asked us specifically what we thought about Lost. So I'll save that.
That's a good segue. I'm done talking about this show. Definitely we'll be talking about it on a TV show. It's something that if Jim and I both like it, going forward, our intention with this show is this is the proving ground.
Yeah.
If we're both on board with something, and we both are thumbs up on it, we'll spin it off into a full podcast. If not, we'll just kind of keep talking about it here. There's a couple things coming up that The Following is one of them. The Strain comes out I think the week after that. 2 weeks after that, I believe, or maybe I've got these flip-flopped. Masters of Sex comes back. Bridge comes back sometime of that. I'm thumbs up on Masters of Sex and The Bridge. I don't know. Jim's going to try to watch those and see how he feels about it.
Yep.
We don't know about The Strain. Definitely going to be watching it when it comes out.
Yeah, me too.
Don't know about The Following. So subscribe to this podcast if you want to.
You're confusing people, man. The Leftovers?
Oh yeah, I don't know why I want to say
you
the
never
Leftovers.
say the right name. You'll say a different name every time.
Because my brain says The Leftovers. Like that can't be the name of a show. It sounds
Yeah.
like something you dig out of your goddamn fridge. No, and maybe that's intentional. Leftovers are unappealing. Nobody ever gets excited about it. Blah blah blah. But anyway, we're going to be talking about that in the weeks to come. Mm-hmm. Before I get to the pimpin', we got something exciting happening. We're on the cusp, and we will, by the end of this month, roll over 5 million downloads on the old Bald Move odometer. And this is something that's happening with increasing, because I started right around 2 million. Started saying, hey, we got 2 million downloads. Holy shit. And they're kind of like mini anniversaries, and they're happening now faster and faster, which is good. 5 million's a big deal, though. And we kind of want to do something a little special. It's been a year since we did like a QA that we did for the Kickstarter, and it was kind of closed for people to produce that just pitched into the Kickstarter. I asked our fans on Facebook and Twitter, hey, what would you like as some kind of special reward? Overwhelmingly, the response was a QA podcast. So we're going to do a pod/video cast. Send in your questions to QA@baldmove.com. We're going to collect them all over the next few weeks and probably record something sometime in July. Mm-hmm. And we're going to turn on the cameras and do that as well. And we will post it to our YouTube site. And we'll also dump it in probably our TV podcast section. So you can get it if you want to listen to it or you want to watch it. It's up to you. But it should be kind of fun. There's also a thread on Facebook that you can send in your questions as well. But it's probably just as easy to do QA@baldmove.com. And we're excited. We already got some great questions. I'm excited to answer them. So send them in. We've got a lot of stuff going on now. I started up a True Blood podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I bet.
It's very similar in our vein to our 24 podcast, which is also going strong. We also are doing an Orange is the New Black podcast with a rotating list of lady co-hosts. We've got, what else is going on?
Well, a couple of our shows just went off the air.
Yeah, we just lost Fargo and Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to be interesting to see how these next few weeks shake down. That if we pick up Masters of Sex and The Bridge and the following, then we'll be right back in the thick of things. If not, we'll have a little bit of an off season that we got some backlog of projects we've been wanting to work on. Mm-hmm. So there's that. If you'd like to support us, you can do so on subbable.com/baldmove. Lots of ways you can subscribe and earn some free perks for yours in exchange for perks for yourself. Just had someone back Murphy's Law, which is an not old, I think it premiered in 2003, and
yeah,
it had like 6 series, so maybe 5 years ago is when it went off the air, about a undercover cop that works in the UK. Mm-hmm. We're doing a couple of episodes of Series 3 for a commissioned podcast. That's the top level reward. So if you've got a favorite television show or a movie, something around 2-hour running time, we will do a custom podcast just for you based on that. Check out subbable.com/baldmove for all the ways you can support us and all the rewards you can earn. You can also use amazon.baldmove.com. It's super simple. If you're shopping on Amazon, please use that link. It costs you nothing, and it gives us a little tiny kickback for sending it their way. You can also rate and review us on iTunes, although, you know, this show is just kind of extra. It's for the diehards that want to know what's coming up next and maybe some of the things that wouldn't sustain a full podcast. You know, it'd be cool if you rate and review us on iTunes, but it's not going to break. I'm not expecting this show to get Game of Thrones or Fargo traffic, you know?
Sure.
This is just for the true television junkies like Jim and I.
All right. Is that it? That's all the pimping we do?
Do we have a generic TV box to send in mail to? We should.
Shows at baldmove.com.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, send it in to shows at baldmove.com.
I think you might even have TV at baldmove.com.
Let's just stick with shows. We know that works. Shows at baldmove.com.
Yeah.
For our podcast. You can also, we do live threads for a lot of this stuff, or we will, especially for the premiere things. And then going forward, depending on how good it is, baldmove.com. Facebook.com/baldmove, and you can also tweet at Jim about your thoughts about some of this show, especially if you're a Falling Skies junkie.
Yeah.
Do that at twitter.com/baldmove or just @baldmove. I think that's all we need to talk about.
I think so. All right, we'll be back. Who knows? Who knows when we have more stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And until then, I'm Jim.
I'm A.Ron. See you next time.